Lights, camera, action. Welcome to the Requel Podcast. If you're not familiar with the Requel Podcast, what it is we take a property and we talk about it. We talk about the film as, do we want to reboot it, make a sequel, make a prequel, a midquel? What would we do if we were in charge of this particular property? And we pitch it to each other, or I pitch it to you guys, and we talk about it. So I am your host, Tyler. This is part of the Patreon specials from the Krypton Report. So let's get into it. Welcome to this episode of Requel. I am your host, Tyler. That's right, Tyler from Krypton Report. And today we're going to be talking about The Wolfman, particularly the 2010 Wolfman film starring Benicio del Toro. Now, a lot of what I'm going to be telling you, you're going to hear in the conversation, but it's going to be a conversation with me and the host of Gravely Amusing, Brian Peters. And we're going to do a commentary, but I wanted to kind of talk about the movie a little bit before the commentary. So if you haven't watched the film in a while and you just want to check out this, you can, and then you can follow up with the commentary afterwards and join us for that. But the Wolfman has always been a very special monster to me. It's my favorite, and I think that comes with the duality. The original Wolfman with Lon Chaney Jr. is my favorite. I talked about that on a podcast. I love that movie podcast a long time ago. Feels like it's been a while since I guess that I did that. But anyways, so when they announced they were going to remake The Wolfman, now The Wolfman is a specific story. You know, it's not just a werewolf story. Like, it is Universal's Wolfman, and I'll talk about how Universal has their own rules towards their monster films compared to the original of the monsters themselves. There's a difference between Universal's Dracula and the book, or Universal's Frankenstein and the book. So when they announced they were going to remake The Wolfman, I got very excited. When they announced that Andrew Walker was writing the screenplay, got even more excited because he did Sleepy Hollow and he did Seven. Now, his screenplay was altered, changed, and this film went through development hell. And the director came, left, and then Joe Johnston was brought on at last minute, and he kind of did it. And I feel the movie has a little bit of Joe Johnston's flair, but not as much as it could. Now, there's a lot to like about the movie, but I do have my issues. And I will talk about them, and that's kind of the spoiler part about this. I think that the casting of Benicio del Toro is perfect. I think he was amazing. Actually, I think all the cast was great in this film. The look of the film, the setting it like in the 1800s, gives this very feel similar to, you know, Francis Ford Coppola's Dracula, that time period. You know, the original Wolfman was set at the time it was made, so like the early 40s, late 30s. And I feel that the Rick Baker makeup is amazing. Now, Rick Baker, legendary makeup artist. He did Star Wars, but he got his first big Academy Award for the werewolf transformation in An American Werewolf in London, which is the best part of that entire film, is the transformation. And the thing was, the budget and the time they were trying to do this film, Rick did not have the chance to do a makeup transformation like he wanted to. So they did use a CGI for the transformation into the wolf. But I feel like it doesn't look bad in the film. There's a couple shots that are a little and I think they did a good job of hiding some of it in shadows and great camera work. But the look is amazing to this movie. The score, what's crazy is the original score was by Danny Elfman, and the studio rejected it, and then went to do another one, didn't like it, so went back to Elfman's score. And I think Elfman's score is spot on for this film. And there is an extended cut, and I might come back and talk about that depending on which cut we are going to watch with Brian, because I'm recording this before Brian and I actually watch the film we are going to be watching. But I wanted to say this is the spoiler part, and this is what I think the film has an issue with that could have made it awesome, could have made it superb. And I hate being that critic, but this is my podcast, and this is what I can say. First of all, The brothers of Lawrence and his brother, that's supposed to be John, are twins. They're supposed to be twin brothers. And I think the twins represent the duality that is a theme of the film. John was the good, devoted son that stayed with his father, that was the man his father wanted to be well. Lawrence was the rebellious prodigal son that left and went off, to America in the first film, and then came back because of his brother's death. So I feel like that was missing by just making kind of this character to be his brother that was kind of thrown away. And with that, I think the character of Gwen, to really make her sell the emotion and what she needed to in this film, should have been a childhood friend. It should have been the boys were raised and grew up with Gwen. Gwen always kind of had a thing for Lawrence, but then he left and she grew to love John. And he comes back and he's kind of picking up with a friend that he hasn't seen in years. I really think that would make the emotional impact of these characters so much stronger. And it's not that hard to do in the story that we have. We're not really changing much of the story that we were presented. The next thing is less gore. That's just a big personal me thing because I'm not a gore hound. I feel like gore can distract from a good story. And by making it overly bloody, violent, yes, it's a werewolf movie. But you can lose a lot in the story. Like I said, that's just me. I personally, because I feel like I want to be able to share the story more. And gore shrinks the audience, okay? Now, this is where I change the story. First of all, the feral boy that Sir John talks about, X that. That's gone. Because the twist of the film should have been, not that Sir John was the werewolf. No. Lawrence's mother was the wolf. Lawrence's mother was a gypsy / Romani. And she was a wolf. She was born a werewolf. Okay? More of a different, more traditional style werewolf. But when she bit Lawrence on accident, it turns him into the wolf man. Because there's a distinction between the wolf man and a werewolf if you watch the original film. Alright? Now, what Lawrence saw that everyone thought he was crazy was his father fighting with an animal that was his mother. And he thought his mother was killed because she was covered in blood and everything, but it was where she had recently killed one of their servants because she got out as the wolf. And so you have this, that they went with the story of his mother killing herself, and Sir John has played the dutiful husband and kept this secret all these years while he hides his wife in their manor. And they lock her up when she turns into the wolf. The son, John, discovered this, and the mother accidentally killed John. That is my pitch and my take of what could have made this Wolfman movie so much better. And really held it up there. As Universal has these monsters, and they just have not been able to do anything with it. On a side note, and I'll take a quick moment, when they tried to do their dark universe, and they were going to launch their dark universe with Tom Cruise and the Mummy, no. First of all, you took your eye off the ball. You don't get a super movie star like Tom Cruise, because then the movie becomes about Tom Cruise, not the Mummy. Second of all, you completely really changed up the Mummy's origin story, who the Mummy is, what the Mummy, you messed up. All you have to do is an organization that hunts monsters. Simple. And then the whole storyline with what happened to Tom Cruise, too much. This isn't rocket science. The old monster movies did it themselves. They made their own connected universe. Universal did it. They did it before the MCU, people. They're the first connected universe. But somehow Universal can't do that. They try to do Dracula Untold. You don't make Dracula the hero. You don't make Dracula the hero. If you listen to my Voyages Demeter a pitch I did back when we went and seen the movie, I gave a whole pitch on Dracula. You don't do Dracula as the hero, Dracula as the villain, and he is evil. And Dracula Untold tried to have it as both and do this whole thing with the reincarnated love story, much like Ford Coppola's. And no, that's not Dracula. It's not even the book Dracula. It's not the universal Dracula. There's a reason why that trying to do Dracula as a superhero movie didn't quite work. Dracula's scary. He's horror. And the Wolfman needs to be different in the sense that Lawrence is good and the Wolfman is bad. And he's harnessing, trying to control this evil, dark side of himself. So that's my pitch and my thoughts. Stay tuned for our conversation with Brian Peters of Gravely Amusing as we watch 2010's Wolfman. And I want to add, there's a list on my birthday that year. So check it out. All right. Hey, what's up? It's Tyler. This is the second part. I have with me Brian Peters, host of the Gravely Amusing podcast.
Thank you for having me, Tyler.
You're welcome, Mr. Peters.
Thank you, Mr. Patrick.
Now, on the night of this here full moon, we have watched... We're kicking off spooky season together.
The greatest season there is.
Yeah. I agree. We've been starting a little early, but this is our first official kickoff.
I started the last week of July, buddy.
I know.
I was ready.
But we watched the 2010 Benicio del Toro Wolfman movie, directed by Joe Johnston. Screenplay, I bring this up, Andrew Kevin Walker and David Self. Now, I bring this up. Do you know Andrew Kevin Walker?
Yes, he wrote the 2010's Wolfman.
He wrote Seven. He wrote Sleepy Hollow. And why I bring it up is because I want to find his script for this. His original script, because his original script of what I heard was different, and it was David Self who came on and changed things at one point in the late production. So if I ever get a chance to meet Andrew Kevin Walker, I'd be like, please just tell me your story for what your original script was for this film. Okay, now this movie has a whole history of being plagued by production issues and start and stop, the changing of directors. Joe Johnston was brought in, and it feels like Joe Johnston was brought in late, and I'm a fan of Joe Johnston's work. Rocketeer, Captain America the First Avenger, Jurassic Park 3. No, not the best Jurassic film.
No, but Rocketeer holds a special place in my heart.
Yeah. Jumanji.
Oh, yeah, Jumanji. Yeah.
So he's got some pedigree, I think. But I really believe he was kind of brought into this as like a work for hire. Like, hey, we need a director to come in and do this and get it done. He didn't really scope his vision. Because I feel like there's some great shots in this film, and we'll talk about it, but tonality-wise, it doesn't fit for me with what Joe did. But
when did Dracula Untold come out?
When did what?
Dracula Untold come out?
2012? 2013?
So like...
No, wait. No, I take that. 2014, because it was right when we moved back.
Okay, so 2014. So you couldn't see... I mean, I hadn't seen this movie since it came out.
I saw this opening day.
13 years. I know I saw it opening weekend.
You know why I saw this opening day?
Because it's the Wolfman. You loved Wolfman?
Yes, but it was released February 12th, 2010.
2010.
So it was on my birthday.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So I was like, we have to go. And I was dating Jania at the time. So
I was just a few months away from proposing to my wife.
Yeah, me too.
Memories.
Because I did it more towards the summer.
So when did you I proposed like June 21st, I think, 2010. Something like that. You
know what? I actually don't remember. Because my mind, like, I was so nervous, I just remember. Because I was trying to find the time to surprise her. Because everyone thought, oh, Tyler's going to propose to her at a certain time, and I didn't. I waited. But, yeah.
My proposal was horrible. I'll have to hear your proposal story.
Oh, mine was dope. That's a different podcast. But...
the romantic podcast.
The romantic podcast. So we're sitting here on the eve of the full moon. I'm wearing a full moon t-shirt. Brian has a wolf pack NWO t-shirt on. We just watched this film, and like I said, I watch it. I like this movie. I don't love this movie. I wanted to love this movie, but I like this movie. The other thing I was going to say is Danny Elfman did the score for this film, which I love, because this film was designed. It was supposed to be like the Wolfman equivalent to what Bram Stoker's Dracula had become, very gothic horror.
That's fair.
The screen or the score was inspired by the Bram Stoker score, but it was actually rejected by the studio. They were going to get someone else to do a score, but then they didn't have time because
I wouldn't say no to Danny Elfman.
And they brought back Danny Elfman's score, which I love because I love the violins. And the way I bring up about time is because Rick Baker, we talk legendary makeup artist, American Werewolf in London. The Wolfman is why he got into makeup.
He's in a Jack White.
Did Star Wars.
Yeah.
It's phenomenal work. He came out of retirement, or after this went into retirement. I think he came out of retirement because he wanted to do the makeup so bad for this. And he did the Wolfman's makeup, and he wanted to create a makeup process for the transformation, but they didn't have time. So they had to use the CG to make it faster. And then, of course, budget was tight. They repurposed the bear from the Golden Compass for the one scene that we see the bear. And the
that
CG
bear did look quite familiar.
Crappy. And I say that just because we're talking about, production issues and changing time. But this is what I want to tell you, Brian, as my thought for this.
You tell me anything, pal.
Here are my points of what I would change about this movie as a writer and a director. Okay, number one, I would ditch the gore. I feel tonality, the gore throws the film off. It limits your viewer. It gets a little redundant. The other thing is, like we've talked about this, there's a difference between a werewolf movie and a Wolfman movie. There's a certain about the Wolfman name, the style, and there's a different thing about the Universal monsters perception compared to just being the monsters. So number one, ditch the gore.
Okay, because I was thinking as I watched it because I forgot. I remember people saying how gory it was, and I forgot how gory it was.
That's what turns Jania off about the movie. As much as she likes the movie in certain aspects, the gore turns her off from the movie.
It's just okay. It's so over the top. Like we talk about this all the time. Like how when you get new directors, new writers, and they want to reboot and they want to change things. We talk about in the comic book aspect. Peter Parker. All the time. Bruce Wayne. I think there's certain elements that you just need to keep, and with all that gore, it doesn't make the Wolfman scary.
No, gore never scares me. Like, to me, gore is just, but it doesn't scare me. Now, like, the slashing, like when he slashes across the face,
sure.
Okay, some blood spatter, like that whole, like, you see the splash and then the, against the wall, okay, whatever. But just like some of the, like, the ripping, the tearing, the guts and stuff, I just feel like that's almost distasteful to the characters. So that's my number one.
So you can almost. I don't think you and I have ever had this debate, but like the Saw movies, for example.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. What made the first Saw so wow?
James Wan.
Is James Wan, of course, but also, like you wondered in your head if you could be put in that situation.
Yeah.
And what would happen to you? What choices would you make? And it was gory and it was raw, but
it wasn't too over the top either.
Right. But also it was all that psychological aspect to it. For the Wolfman, if I'm watching this and it's just a beast just tearing people apart, it doesn't set it apart from any other gore movie or any other monster movie, if you will. Mm-hmm. Like the whole point of the Wolfman is this internal struggle of, I love these people or I have the potential to love these people.
Yeah.
And do something with my life, But the fact is I've been cursed. Like the Wolfman has to be cursed at that time where there's so much potential for his future.
Yes.
Where this curse it ruins everything. It ruins every happiness that he could possibly have.
Yes.
And in this movie, I know you're going to say it. What you would change about the characterizations of Gwen and Larry here, or Lawrence. So I think
they never call him Larry. They always say Lawrence, but I preferred. And
some people can either call him Larry.
But the thing was, he says he went to America.
Yeah,
Larry's very much the Americanism of Lawrence in a sense,
Fair enough.
And that's the same with the Lon Chaney Jr. version. So I think he should have been you can call me. Like he should have said it to Gwen, like you can call me Larry. Like when he was with the theater people, they should have called him Larry. Mm. Like it's more of like the less proper, more like friend connection. And like the proper version, everyone called him, Lawrence Talbot. He's like, just call me Larry.
And in the original Wolfman, some of the appeal of it, for lack of better terms, is like you had how do you pronounce her name?
Maleva?
Yeah, Maleva. Like her son was the wolf.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah. I'm getting there.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then Larry becomes, and Larry's like a son to her now because he has the curse. And like, I don't know,
all right.
So you lose that. You lose that in this.
So here. Okay.
Good, yeah.
My second point is like I said to you, this is the one thing I shared to you as we were watching it. I would have had Ben, Larry, and Gwen kind of grow up together as childhood friends.
Yeah.
And then she always had more of a thing for Larry. But then he moved away, or was sent away, to America. And her and Ben just kind of stayed friends. And she lived she did her shop, but it was in Blackmore. It wasn't in London, it was in Blackmore. And that way when Larry comes back, it kind of rekindles this friendship, this history, this past. And there's already...
Should it be the death of the mom that sends Larry away? Like Larry just handled it harder because he told her.
Well, the thing was, it was the mom died...
But then goes in
he went to the asylum, and then the father sent him away. Is basically what happened.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's two. That's two of my points. Number 3, I have them written down because I had a certain order. Hold on, I'm gonna pull it up because I have a certain order I wanted to do them in.
Pull it up.
The brothers are supposed to be twins. If you look at how Larry talks about John, who's the brother in the original, it's just a portrait of. Lon Chaney Jr. And I always thought that was an interesting concept. Twins, Romulus and Remus, were supposed to be werewolves or cared for by werewolves. And the idea of the good brother, the bad brother, the two sides. You know what I'm saying? So that should have been a thing because that's an interesting theme to make it easy about just the two sides duality that we're dealing with here is the twins and Lawrence is the prodigal son that lives in the world. Ben is the good son or John stays with, his father, the loyalist,
his father,
the son he always wanted. Let's go. The Feral Boy story, bullcrap. Eject that.
Don't like it.
Because here's why.
It looks like Gollum.
Yeah, because here you go. Ready?
Yeah.
My point number 5. You ready for this, Brian?
Right. I'm literally sitting on the edge of the seat.
The wolf should have been his mother. She's a gypsy. She was born a werewolf and had more of that pure wolf form that we've seen before, which is why when he becomes a wolf man. But the mother should have been the wolf.
Wolf mother.
And the idea was he saw his mother killing somebody, not his mother dying. But they had to, basically, in his mind, they tricked him into believing that his mother was the one that died. And all these years, Sir John has had to hide her at his mansion. So everyone had to believe she was dead. And what you do is all of a sudden you subvert that Sir John is this tough man to really find out he's nothing but a doting husband who's just caring for his wife and hiding her deepest, darkest secret. And that's the twist at the end. Is all this time Lawrence thinks he's lost his mind because of his mother. And really, Sir John is a caged animal in a sense, a prisoner of his own design for caring for his wife. But she is the wolf.
And the whole time you think it's his dad. I mean, it's pretty damn obvious from the get-go that's his dad.
Yeah.
So way too obvious.
If that would have been the twist at the end. Because you tie the origin of the wolf back to the gypsies. The mother was a gypsy / Romani. Mm-hmm. It brings that lore even stronger, and there you go.
But okay, but if the mom's a werewolf, then what would be the reason that the mom would attack Ben? That she would get out.
Same.
That he would let her out.
Same. Just something happened. They got in a fight. She, just like the story he tells where he knocked Sing out because he was drunk and angry. In this, it could be something where they got into a fight where he was going to lock her up. She pushed Sir John, knocked him out, and she was free to roam once again. And then Ben just happened to be out and about and caught in the crossfires. Because if the whole thing is about the beast being its own self.
Yeah, my word.
I think there's much more.
Better than a dad.
Much more of an emotional gut punch. It subverts everything you thought you knew in the story.
It's better than a dad.
Yeah.
Because so Werewolf in London, and Werewolf, and Werewolf in London, which predates the Wolfman. Mm-hmm. It's this rival scientist, and they're hunting flowers that can give them temporary cure to lycanthropy.
Yeah.
Silly. And in the movie Wolf, Jack Nicholson, rival werewolves.
Yeah.
It's used so much. So much.
And, the thing is you could do in this is the mother, you could have the storyline where the mother bit Lawrence subconsciously because she was tired of being alone. Because the werewolf gene...
Her kids keep leaving there.
The werewolf gene or whatever didn't pass to her children. It can be one of those things that skips a generation in her family, and she was, like I said, born with it and everything. But so, subconsciously as the wolf, she bit Lawrence so that she would finally really feel like she has her family. But yet in the process, she kills Sir John, Ben, other people, almost kills Gwen. So you have this idea of this mother that he thought he lost, that he held on this pedestal, and how now he's face to face with her again, and he sees her for who she really is.
It's a better story.
But I like I said, I like this movie. I like that it's more gothic. I like that it was set in the 1800s instead of in the 40s. Really, I like the Victorian era horror because it goes back to Bram Stoker's Dracula and everything. That there's always this old world sense to it instead of dealing with the modern stuff. You always have to figure out a way around.
I think. Well,
I love the look of the Wolfman. I love his size. I like that they did the 2 feet because it is, like I said, it's a difference between a wolfman and a werewolf. But then at times he's on all fours. And he's big. I like how he still has some of his clothes on because that's a wolfman trait. Instead of being just complete wolf in the buff.
I don't think stories like this can work in modern times.
I think it loses something.
Yeah. Because, it makes it a little bit less scary. And it makes it, it loses the mystique, if you will. Because, you put this in modern times, and it's just more, people have cell phones. People can just record video. Hey, there's this weird creature, whatever.
Yeah, but
I don't know. It just it just loses. I don't know. It loses that old classic Universal monster feel. I don't know. I felt at times the movie, I felt like the pace was just not always there.
No, we did watch the unrated cut. Because that was the digital. I didn't realize my digital copy, that's all I had. And I do know, I told Brian, the 2 scenes I knew for the unrated cut were the Gwen goes to Lawrence at the theater, and then the old man with the cane, which I love the old man with the cane, but you can tell the editor who inserted that scene didn't really do his due diligence with that scene because they have the double drop of the stuff. that's in Lawrence's lap. But, so, I mean, I say that because I don't know if there's anything else in it, but yeah, there is some parts in the pacing where you're just like, you could trim this. The other thing I noticed watching it this time is what exactly the times table is in this movie. Because I know that there's that 1 month gap, but then there's another month where Lawrence feels like we have at least 2 months full of the times table of this movie, and then they allude to almost when he escapes and heads back to Blackmore. There's a shot where it looks like the moon. I don't know if it's the moon coming out, but it looks like it's going through a cycle again. But like, there's no way it's been another month.
There's so much in this movie where it's like the full moon happens, and then okay, he's recovering, and then they just try to speed up everything to the next full moon. When
the full moon lasts for 3 nights. Yeah. Like, it's not like it's one and done. Like, it's a 3-nighter in the cycle.
That's what, and so I mean, the original Wolfman. That's why it was done so well.
So, like you could have easily condensed this movie into like a 3-day cycle, instead of stretching out. And I feel
long weekend.
And I feel like by going to the asylum, you break that up and really extend the time frame of the film. Now, here's a question to you, as a fellow folklorist. How do you, when the moon rises, when does it take effect? Like, because in some movies we've seen in the lore, if the clouds are covering the moon, they can't change, but when the clouds are away and it's just the bright moon, they change. Is it like when it's completely dark at its highest point that causes the change? Because at that point it'd be like midnight and everyone's always awake when they change. No one's like asleep in bed. Then all of a sudden, like,
sometimes they don't do the change until he sees it.
And that's why I'm like, what do you?
And like that doesn't work for me because because then you can just. I'll just cover my eyes. Yeah, exactly. Just cover your eyes. I'm going to go Stevie Wonder for a second. Whatever. Whatever. I'm going to put this little mask over my eyes. For me, I would say, as soon as that full moon is up in the sky, like as soon as it's fully shown, so the sunset.
So I'd say within like an hour. There. About within an hour of sunset. I'm trying to look out my door and see if we can see it from here.
Yeah,
we have a super blue moon tonight. A full super blue moon.
I saw you standing alone.
But what are any other thoughts of the film?
I thought Benicio was perfect casting. I thought the cast was very well cast.
Agreed.
But the writing felt quite off in it. I think I need to see the theatrical again, like in a couple weeks or so, because that scene in the beginning where she meets him, it feels off because he's saying like, I don't care about my brother, I got to do this show. I'm an actor. Well, what do I give a crap? And then then the next scene, I'm on a train.
The theatrical really opens up with the howling, when he says the Wolfman, and then it like smash cuts to the horses running, and he's in a carriage, on the train, and then it's on the train and then the carriage.
And I like your idea of her knowing him as a child. Because it just feels the romance, if you will. It's just like a romance of convenience.
Yeah.
Like, I lost my man. You look a bit like my man. You're related to my man. You are a man. Let's
just fill this in. Fill in the blank.
It's just it feels a little off. Some of the pacing just takes a while to do things, and then they just throw in like a mass murder, scene, and like we weren't able to gain enough sympathy of Larry in this one. Like in the original Wolfman, Larry's very charming. Mm-hmm. Larry,
he's confident. He's happy. He's a happy-go-lucky dude.
Yeah.
Like he's like, you know what? I'm good. Like I'm gonna flirt. I'm okay. You know, I'm strong. I'm a very, well-to-do man, but there's a slight tragedy in his face, and that's, I think, what Benicio does amazingly. There's still that tragedy in his face, even though there's that charm. But then, like, one of the best scenes is when Lon Chaney breaks in and he does the, where he's trying to take the necklace from her, and he's like, I'm afraid. Like, you see the fear that he himself has. And I feel like we didn't quite. And
I like the gypsy woman, I can't pronounce her name right, Maleva's son being the werewolf. I like that Larry is walking with her in the night, through the park. Like, everything's an accident. It's a total accident. It's just I'm in the wrong place in this time.
Well, it's also like,
whereas in this one, it's more like
the underlining
predetermined situation.
If Larry hadn't asked out a girl and tried to escort her who was already engaged, and another girl, and he's out there flirting, he wouldn't have been in the wrong place. And like I said, I like the wolf being tied back to the gypsies. Mm-hmm. That's why I said, if we're going to do something with a little bit of twist, making it the mother. Yeah. Since we could, instead of just making it her son, Bela.
I feel the movie could have been great.
Yeah.
And I know it's like 13-year-old CGI, that was recycled for the Flash, but with what they had, it didn't look atrocious. And
the CG, the first CG transformation doesn't bother me.
Yeah.
The second one kind of does when they show the face.
Chair, there are moments.
I would have cut tighter, like showing the eye, and not done like the pull out of the face changing. I'm like, less is more. Like,
it was looking like Ang Lee's Hulk.
Yeah, like in the first one, it's kind of in shadow, and you have the reflection of his face as it's starting to change, and he's still got his jacket on, and you see like the body moving under the jacket, where you're not really sure what all's going on, and it's dark. That works for me. I don't need to see it all.
And the Wolfman, it needs to happen. It needs some alarm of the Wolfman is. It's going to happen on a full moon for sure. You know that, but that we as humans have these urges. We get angry sometimes, and not being able to control that, and the whole that I'm going to attack the ones I love. Like, it's not just anybody. It's going to be I'm going after the ones I love.
Well, in the original Wolfman, the theme of alcoholism was used. The idea that you're a good person by day, but then at night you change into another person, Mm-hmm. And what that does, like you said, like you attack people that you love, you hit people, and then the next day you're apologizing because you're a changed person. So there were some themes of strong themes that were put into that film that. What are the strong themes that are underlining here? He's an actor. Well, what does that mean to being the Wolfman? Like, what kind of does that bring? Like, in the original, Lawrence is very much a workman. He's almost blue collar. He's putting together a telescope. He talked about working for an optical company in California. Likes working with his hands. So he's very much a, salt of the earth kind of guy. It's monster time, dude. We got more monster conversations coming up, as I will be a guest on your podcast.
You will.
And Brian's podcast will be launching in 2 days. September 1st.
September 1st.
So check out Gravely Amusing. It's gonna be a gas.
It's gonna be horrifying.